Okay, before I start talking about writing related things, can I just say that this morning it was a little bit chilly. It was a little bit misty and drizzly and stuff. And so, as you can kind of see, I definitely rocked the colors of fall today. I mean, look at the color of my pants. My shoes were the same color as this. My necklace is a leaf. My earrings have leaves on them. I mean, and then this thing in my hair. Some kind of scarf situation. Look at that. Colors of fall. Okay? I mean, and then this afternoon it had the nerve to heat up to like 79 degrees. Hi, my name is Sydney, and today I wanted to give you guys a bit of a writing update. It's been a while since I've done a them's writing words. I think, I'm actually not sure when the last one was, but I know that it was probably in like July or something. So today after work I went to Barnes & Noble. I was there for about 2 hours and some change, like from like 5 p.m. to like a little after 7, and I looked out the window at one point and like it was started to rain, but then like over here the sky was like still kind of light, but it's like sunsetty kind of light, and then over here it was pitch black because there was like a giant cloud, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's quite literally day versus night. So by the time you guys see this, I will have already uploaded my Norway vlogs, so go ahead and check those out. That gives you a bit of an idea of what I've been working on. Like my past few videos, while they haven't been strictly writing updates, you still kind of get a sense of where I am, especially my line editing video, which like since this is sort of jumping off of that, I would definitely recommend you go and watch that video first if you haven't watched this, and then come back and we can chat about our writing progress. So these are the two halves of my bound manuscripts. I am officially in the second half of the manual, so I think it took me like I got it bound on like August 11th or 12th or something, so it took me until about September 3rd-ish to do the whole first half. At this point, I'm about to start chapter 42, which is page 331. I still have 222 pages left, 222, and I am like, it feels like it's 222 miles away. Like seriously, it feels like I'm inching through this. And it's not even that I'm not enjoying it. It's not even that I don't feel like I'm making progress. It's just like, it's such a big book. And the process of line editing is just so tedious. I definitely recommend doing line editing when you have a lot of time to do it. Like maybe you're not in a rush or something. If you can swing it, sometimes you are. Or sometimes you just want to give yourself a deadline so you know when you'll be done with it. And I have given myself the deadline of September 30th because I want to be moving on to planning and working on book 2 by the time October comes around. Because I just need to see the end of the tunnel, okay? It's like taking so long. As of yesterday, I had 26 chapters to do in 21 days until the end of the month. So today, I finished 1 chapter at Barnes & Noble's, and then I finished 2 more after that. So I did like 2.5 chapters. We're making some good progress, but it still just feels like, ugh. And then it takes so long to do 1 chapter that I don't feel like I accomplished a significant amount of work while I was there, given I was only there for about 2 hours, but it was still just like, I wanted to transcribe those changes as well. So I have a few I still have like maybe 5 or 6 chapters to transcribe into my Word document. I'm kind of doing it a little bit at a time. It helps to kind of break up the tedium, so you're not just doing the same thing all the time and then you have to go back and implement everything. Like you do a couple chapters, then you implement them, and then you do a couple chapters, then you implement them, and that way you can also see how your word count is being affected by the line editing. So okay, what I'm about to say is like a super big deal for me because, oh my gosh, if you have seen my past editing videos, some of the more recent ones where I talk about how big of a book Pitchfork is, you know that the first draft of this book, and just so you know, I'm on the 3rd draft, or actually line editing is the 4th draft. So the first draft of this wasn't even like a complete draft, so we're going to skip to the 2nd draft. The 2nd draft was the first draft of the story that I wrote completely from start to finish, wrote every scene and everything. That came out to 141,000 words. Okay. Mind you, that's like a 600-page book. So, a bit too big and way beyond the parameters of a typical YA fantasy novel's word count. You know, that's like maybe 100 to 120,000 words. So I was like, okay, wishful thinking, but if I get this down to 115, that's right there in the parameters. It's still kind of a big book, but it's not so big that agents will be like, no. I don't know what that was, but in the process of line editing, I have gotten rid of so many words, it's sort of unbelievable. I knew that it would be a thing of like, okay, get rid of a few words here, a few words there, and the things will start to add up incrementally, like a little bit at a time. I did not realize that they would not just add up incrementally, they would add up exponentially. Like, dude, okay, entire pages have been crossed out. I have gotten rid of 2 chapters. I took the important bits of those chapters and moved them to other chapters, and I have, you know, gotten rid of entire sentences and paragraphs, or I've reworded things. You know, I've said more, or I've said the same thing in fewer words. Sometimes I add in a few things. And at the beginning I was like, I don't want to add anything because I'm trying to get the word count down. But it's a matter of just taking away more words than you're adding. Like, okay, this draft, once I finished writing draft 3, it was at 135,000 words. Actually, I wrote down the exact word count. 134,885 words. After only editing the first 41 chapters, I still have until chapter 63 to get through. We are at like 115,000. And mind you, I have not yet implemented the last 5 or 6 chapters, so it's probably going to be like 112 or something. We're at a point now, like, okay, yeah, I'm at my goal word count, but we're at a point now that I still have 20 chapters left to line edit, and I'm actually worried now that the book is going to be too short. And I'm like, okay, like, now I'm taking away too many words. Like, okay, slow down, you know. But like but these are words that need to be gotten rid of. I can't just not get rid of them, you know. And I'm finding like sort of embarrassing mistakes. Like the word, I used the word torture as in, you know, to torture somebody, but the way that I spelled it was like you hold the torch. Like, and I'm like, oh my gosh, imagine if I hadn't line edited this, I would have missed that word and somebody would have seen it, and that would have been really embarrassing. Given it's much later in the story, and like, sure, sometimes you can forgive a mistake like that, but like when you start seeing them repeatedly, it's like, okay, there's an issue here. I'm like, you know, that can give an agent or somebody pause. Like, I don't know if I want to work with this manuscript if these are the types of errors that we're gonna have to keep nitpicking on, you know. Okay, so when I first dove into line editing, given that my main goal was to get rid of a bunch of words, I made a list of all the places where I could cut words. Chapters that I didn't think I needed, scenes that were redundant. I've reached all those scenes already. Like, I've already gotten rid of those scenes, or gotten rid of those chapters, or combined scenes. So I'm past, I think, the major hard-hitting word count stuff. But there's still going to be like paragraphs and stuff here and there that I don't need, and that's where we're still going to see more of the word count coming down. So at this point I'm like, yeah, we're getting rid of a lot of words, but I think as long as it stays over 100,000, we're fine. And it's actually making me start to think, like, are there things I should add, you know? Like, I'm not going to add for the sake of adding unless my word count falls way below, in which case it might be a question of maybe I got rid of too many scenes, or no, I don't think that's the issue. I think there was just a lot of fluff in my writing, like a lot of wordiness and stuff like that, kind of like my rambling in this video. When I first started line editing this book, my goal was to finish, or to line edit as much as I possibly could by August 27th, 28th, 29th, because those were the deadlines for the Pitch Wars contest, which, if you don't know, it's like you submit your completed manuscript to a bunch of mentors. If you get accepted, which, like, a lot of the mentors got like 1 and 2 and 300 submissions, so it's a very slim chance because they're only picking one. But like, if you got accepted by the mentor, then they would work with you on your book over the next few months until you have like an agent showcase, and then maybe you'll get chosen by an agent, maybe. But you know, anyway, basically it's like you have a dedicated mentor who's going to help you whip your book even better into shape. So I was like, oh, that's a cool idea. And that's kind of why I was on crunch time. Like, I have to line that as much as possible. And I think by the time I submitted to Pitch Wars, I had line edited like 20 something, 30 chapters. Of course, I only submitted the first chapter, so like nobody's yet to see the rest of it. So that's why I'm kind of like taking a breather. Like, I still have time to line edit stuff, and at this point I've line edited enough of the book that I'm much lower in the word count. I actually submitted it to Pitch Wars with 118,000 words, and I'm now at 115, so I don't know how that's, like, it's not a huge difference, you know. But anyway, another thing that I did, sort of kind of impulsively, but not really, because I've been thinking about it for a long time, and that was querying agents. So one of the submission materials with Pitch Wars was to write a query letter. You know, you write your query letter, you write your synopsis, and you give them the first chapter of your manuscript. Now, if I get nothing else, if I got nothing else from Pitch Wars, like if I don't get a mentor or anything like that, I got a query letter that I am super proud of, that I think is really good. So I took that query letter, I updated the word count, and I may or may not have sent it to like 5 agents who I had already made a list of that I was interested in. and stuff. I may have done that, I may not have, but I did it. And I'm not ashamed. It was so funny, like as I was sending it, I didn't feel nervous at all. I think just because I had already reached, because of many things that have happened in the last 30 days or so, I had basically reached my mental capacity for emotions. So like, yeah, when I was in Norway, I climbed the mountain and thought I was gonna die, so that was really fun. So I think that was kind of the last thing. That was the last time I really felt super emotional about anything, and that was like a week ago. So yeah, it's a little concerning, but you know, like literally the same day that I finished climbing that mountain, I saw a huge picture of a spider, and I didn't even freak out. I was just like, okay, go away. When normally I start to panic when I see a picture of a spider. So I'm like, oh my god, like a picture, not even the actual thing. So when I submitted to the agents, I was like not even a tiny bit nervous, you know? So we'll see. I wanted to submit it to a few, but not so many that I like burn all my bridges with like a really bad, a query letter that maybe turns out to be really bad, or the first chapter that's not as good as I think it is, or you know, whatever. I think I saw online they were like, submit your query letters in batches of 6 to 8, because that gives you a good enough chance to put some feelers out there and see what other people say. But it also gives you but again, like you don't burn all your bridges. Like there are hundreds of agents out there, but you don't want to submit your query letter to 100 agents, because if your query sucks, you burned all your bridges for now. So the other day, I actually whipped out book 2 of Stormcloud, which mind you, I've only written the first 30,000 words or so of, but like I whipped it out and just had this urge to read through the entire thing. I think part of it was because I was feeling super burned out from line editing Pitchfork, and I wanted to just take a moment to step back and look at something else. Of course, it's always a danger to pick up another story when you're currently working on one and you need to focus on that one, because then you start to feel like you want to now work on that new story. Luckily, this hasn't quite happened, although it did sort of it didn't open the can of worms. It sort of just like twisted the lid so it wasn't jammed shut, you know, but the lid could pop off at any moment. Cans don't have lids. Not really. Not ones that you can twist. That's a jar. Anyway, ill logic aside, so I read through it, and one thing that I really liked about it was that my sentence structure was so much more varied in that draft than in anything else I've ever written before. Like I think a lot of writers might have this issue where your sentences, like you're just writing, you're trying to get the words out, so sometimes your sentence structure is very repetitive. You have a lot of declarative sentences like she did that, he said this, whatever. You might have several sentences that start that way in a row, and it starts to become very like, kind of doesn't really have any life to it. When I was reading through book 2 of Stormcloud, I started to see like a lot of that sentence structure variation, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is actually really beautiful writing. And it was very like, there was a lot of imagery and like sensory details and stuff like that. So I was actually like really proud of it, and I'm like, oh, now I have to figure out how to do that everywhere else. Yeah, but with that story, it's definitely a thing about like me, even for book 1 of Stormcloud, it's me just trying to let things simmer in the back of my mind. Like I realized when I was reading it that I actually had no idea how I wanted to revise Stormcloud, so I think I just need to like sit down one day, not anytime soon, to sit down eventually one day and like make a list of all the ways I could possibly tweak it. And then on the other hand, I have this. Can you see what that says? It says book 2. This is where I keep my index cards for book 2 of Pitchfork. I started planning stuff out. I just kind of felt like it. It's something that I've been wanting to do for a very long time. Like for 2 or 3 years, I have been wanting to plan out this book. Yeah, it was kind of like interesting. Like it's one of those things, whenever I start a new project, like even before I start the project, I can be super excited about it, like oh my gosh, I can't wait to do this. But the moment I get the opportunity to start it, I'm like, I don't want to do it. Like I'm afraid to get started, you know. And I had a whole video that kind of touched on this about creative depression, and I can link that down below. But it's just so weird, like you get really hesitant to like start a new project because you're afraid you're going to mess it up somehow, because that it's not going to be as perfect as it is in your head. And with that, it was definitely the same thing. So like I had this urge to do it on Saturday, but it wasn't until Sunday afternoon that I actually sat down on the floor and like started laying stuff out. And even then I didn't feel that huge excitement that I was anticipating. So I mean, like I was happy to do it, but it wasn't like this frantic burst of creativity where I have too many ideas and I can't keep track of them. It wasn't even anything like that. I was like super calm and stuff. So yeah, it's kind of sad, you know, but then again, it's like you talk things up a lot in your head, you know. It's not always going to be like that when it actually happens. I don't know. But yeah, that's all that I've been dealing with writing wise the past few weeks. Yeah, let me know down below if you guys, what stage of your writing you guys are at, if you're writing, if you're drafting, if you're planning, if you're editing, if you're line editing like me, if you're twiddling your thumbs thinking of the next great American novel or French novel or Turkish novel or wherever you're from. Yeah, let me know down below. Let's have a conversation about our writing, and let's talk about our woes together. I like the word woe. Yeah, but anyway, my battery's about to die, which is good timing, I guess. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Give this video a like, hit subscribe, and I will see you next time. Toodaloo.